Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee, where I lived for many years. It's Thursday, February 1, 10:17 in the morning, and our weather is weird today. 52 now, high of 56, and we're getting a little bit of sun. And then it's going to be cloudy, and then in the evening, a little bit of rain, not much rain. So today's going to be very slight on the rain. Tomorrow, Friday, is going to be a little bit less rain, probably, and Saturday too. Temperature's about the same, and then Sunday we'll start seeing the sun. But Monday, not much rain, a little bit. Tuesday we warm up, Wednesday we get warm, and by Friday we'll be hitting next week, we'll be hitting the high 60s and having a bunch of sun again. So it looks like we're coming out of this storm, which has been really hard on all of Israel. Okay, by the way, I'm not Orthodox Jew. I have no kippah on. It's a Stetson hat. It's Indiana Jones themed, and if you look, it has a ace of spades on it. No Orthodox ever wears anything like this. Okay, it happens to be black and it happens to be a fedora, but it's in the Indiana Jones style. It's a wool that's waterproofed. It works too. The water beats up on it. I don't like wearing wool in the rain, but I did this by mistake once, and it does work. Okay, let me jump into the live stream while people are coming in, and make sure I got it. Make sure everything's working. To the live stream. Okay, I got to do a little housekeeping in the chat. There's hey Olivia, there's not it's not going to take a lot of time, but I got to do a few things. Looks like we got a wise guy in the chat. The end of that. Okay. We're getting a lot of wise guys in the chat today. We'll just get rid of them. I'll do this as quick as I can, which takes a couple of brief minutes, but it's only fair to let people come in. We have somebody that cleans the house, and she did something in here. She waxed the floor or something yesterday. I'm afraid I'm going to slip. I got to talk to her about that. I can't even walk on it, and I got sneakers on, running shoes. So pray I don't fall, please. I can't even adjust my chair by pushing my feet on the floor. They slide. I mean, it's crazy. I don't know what she put on the floor. I'm going to tell her not to do that anymore. Almost there, guys. I think it's better than just putting a counter up on the screen and having people, just sit there and stare at a screen. Okay, we're done. Being a Bible believing site, let's do the praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Gosh, I look like I'm some sort of Orthodox or something. With the black sweatshirt, black hat, I don't like that. So let me get a good cowboy hat on. Okay. Nice resistol. All right. We got some interesting developments that pertain directly to the war. We need to talk about, bring you up to speed. First thing I want to cover with you is the fact that Hamas has rejected the peace talks as of last night. Okay, the peace talks are being driven by three countries. Bloody Biden, that's his new name in my book. Qatar and Egypt. Let's go through the role that these people had in terms of the war with Hamas. Not the Houthis, not Lebanon and Hezbollah, Hamas, Gaza. Gaza got mountains of concrete and steel girder beam things for the tunnels into their area, Gaza, through Egypt. Went on for years. Why did Netanyahu do nothing about it? Well, I call him the curse of Israel. In my opinion, that's what he is. But Egypt let it happen. Now, Qatar gives money to Hamas and the Palestinians. The soldiers tell us, we were asking soldiers, the media was, what do you see when you go into the houses in Gaza? And they say they see posters on the wall of the terrorists, the big ones that killed Jews. Like a teenage kid would put a picture of a football player or a basketball player up. They put the terrorist pictures up. How about that? Not one Gazan did anything, a civilian did anything to rescue a single hostage, even though they were placing the hostages in the houses, apartments of the civilians to keep them there. They abused them. The women have been raped continually, daily, day in, day out, since they got taken hostage. We learned this from talking to some of the released hostages. The latest trend, particularly in the fighting in Khan Yunis, which is central Gaza, is surrendering. The Hamas is surrendering. The other day, 2 days ago, 500 surrendered. 2 days ago, but I'm hours ahead of you. So, yeah. We got so many of them, we're picking up so much intel, we don't know what to do with it. I mean, we do. They don't you know, eh, do you think Israel has to take them and put them in extreme interrogation, waterboard them, and electricity and all that? You don't understand. A guy brings him into a room, talks to him, wants to see his ID card from Hamas or Gaza, you know. Talks about his family and stuff like that. And would you like some water? Would you like tea, coffee, a sandwich, something to eat, a cigarette, whatever they want? You give it to them. Then they're told how well they're going to be treated if they cooperate. And guess what? They cooperate. You don't have to do sleep deprivation and stuff like that. They're so scared they think you're going to treat them the way they treated the hostages. You don't have to do much. Now, the ones that don't cooperate, why are they going to waste their time with extended interrogations? When you got hundreds of them, you don't need them. They don't get the good treatment. Maybe if they're a high-ranking official, they would have extended interrogation in select instances, but you get all kinds of intel you want by being nice to them, that's all. They're so scared. They think you're going to electrocute them, waterboard them, torture them, mutilate them. They don't know what you're going to do to them. Probably Hamas tells them that this is going to happen to them if they surrender. What better way to stop them from surrendering, right? These are disposable assets, throwaway pawns, okay? The IDF is telling us now that we have about 60% of Hamas deactivated. They're separated, their battalions are separated, they can no longer function as a unit, as one unit. They're busted up. So they're resorting to Che Guevara or Fidel Castro in 1959, guerrilla warfare. They try to hide in a building and run out and shoot the soldiers. They try to blow up the tanks, which doesn't work. I haven't heard of them firing an anti-tank rocket in weeks. The missile launches in Israel are intermittent at best, inaccurate, you know. The idiot militias in Syria made an announcement the other day that they launched a rocket at Haifa. Nobody in Haifa heard a rocket, saw a rocket. The radar systems for the Iron Dome didn't pick up a rocket. What happened? There was an explosion in Syria that we didn't have an explanation for. So finally, military intelligence put the pieces together, and the idiots actually did launch a rocket, but it fell in Syria. Yesterday, the Houthis hit an American, I believe it was a destroyer in the Red Sea. They tried to hit it, and it knocked down the missiles. They were unsuccessful. Now, the Qatar and Egypt and Biden and America are trying avidly to get a ceasefire. They want a long ceasefire. We're hearing 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And they want all the hostages returned. The ICJ said that Israel should be careful about genocide and Hamas should return all the hostages. Hamas has no intention of listening to the ICJ, International Court of Justice in The Hague. Their demands are silly, are foolish. They're asking for things like release of thousands of terrorist prisoners in Israeli jails. They want Israel to completely withdraw from Gaza before they release any hostages. It's ridiculous. They don't tell us the names of the hostages that they have that are still alive. They never let the Red Cross administer medical to them or even see them. Qatar sent medicines mostly to Gaza for the hostages, and they never gave it to the hostages. Qatar was housing the leaders of Hamas in 5-star hotels with government protection while they were waging war against Israel. Qatar gives money to Hamas, which enabled them to build the tunnels, many millions of dollars. Egypt let the weapons come in, and Biden, well, I'll let you draw your own conclusions. Biden was saying Netanyahu's not welcome to the White House, and then all of a sudden around mid-September, all of a sudden, yeah, come to the White House, Netanyahu, come. He let Benny Gantz come to the White House, which is the opposition party leader, the biggest opposition to Netanyahu. So, Benny Gantz goes and visits Biden, comes back. Okay. Then all of a sudden, Netanyahu goes to visit Biden. September 20th was the date. And he comes back. And then on October 7th, we get invaded from Gaza by thousands of crazy people killing us. All right, stop the growling. We have so many protective systems by the Gaza to stop this, and then all of them were not working. We have day and night cameras. We have sensors that detect motion in the ground. We have people in outposts that are like towers that are built there. They have assault weapons, they have binoculars, and they watch. They were calling the IDF and talking about a big invasion, and the IDF were telling them, because mostly they're women soldiers, were telling them they're wrong. Don't worry about it. We have this testimony. We even have trackers that are Bedouins that follow their footprints in the signs where they travel to track them down. Well, help didn't come for the girl soldiers in the outposts for 7 to 8 hours. Okay? And many got taken hostage, and now they're being raped every day. They came into Gaza. They shot people in their homes in front of their children and killed their children in front of them. They cut a fetus out of a woman while she was alive. They put a baby in an oven and cooked it alive. They took women and children and tied them together with steel cable and burned them alive in their cars. Massacre. One of the reasons is the curse of Israel. Netanyahu's gun control policies kept these people from being well armed. Or armed at all. If they just had 9mm pistols, they could have held them off. Gun control is very dangerous. Very dangerous. So then what happens? Well, I'm sitting outside that day, getting ready for my broadcast, and about 5:30 in the morning, and I was out there about 5:30. On my phone, I start picking up red alerts, which means missiles and rockets are coming into Israel, and I have it programmed for the whole country. So many missiles and rockets were coming in, the alerts didn't stop. They were non-stop for a long time. I thought, well, give it 15, 20 minutes, they'll bomb them, it'll be over. It took 3.5 to 4 hours. There were people that ran away from the housing areas in Gaza and hid in the fields. There was no help for 7 to 8 hours. Usually you're looking 7 to 8 minutes. And what does it sound like to you? Okay, so bloody Biden. Now they're all pushing for a peace deal. Hamas isn't and Israel isn't. Not very seriously. They won't stop. It's never ending. Biden sends the CIA director over to Cater, and it's just never ending. Netanyahu has a political agenda because he's facing 3 criminal cases that are actively in jail, and he could go to prison if convicted for up to 16 years for corruption. So he is very worried about being removed from office via a vote of no confidence. And the families and friends of the hostages have started blocking the humanitarian aid coming into Gaza and protesting. So he's nervous now. So for his own rotten agenda, he's likely going to do some sort of a peace deal with Gaza. I expect it. Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, the 2 right-wing guys in the Knesset in his coalition, are saying if he settles for anything less than, complete demilitarization of Gaza and making sure Israel is safe, and, however way they want to structure that, they're going to blow his coalition. If his coalition blows up, a vote of no confidence will ensue, and because of the emergency nature of the war, we don't have to wait 3 months. The Knesset, they'll do a vote of no confidence. For a show of hands, everybody will have to say they're with Netanyahu. If he doesn't get 61, which he won't even come close today, he's out. And then what happens? Then they turn around a few minutes later and they say anybody, the president will do it. He's like a secretary of state. The prime minister's the big shot. And he'll turn around and say, anybody here have a coalition of 61 votes? Gantz will probably have it. So then they anoint Gantz the new prime minister, and it's all over in a day, and then Netanyahu's criminal cases will accelerate, and he'll likely go to jail. And he knows this. So he's trying to keep Israel in a war because Israel has the habit of not wanting to change the prime minister and show division during wartime. Stupid practice, but they do that. When you got a bad prime minister, the time you really want to switch him out is during war. But it's very hard to reason with these people. The majority of them think and act like the Arabs do, unfortunately. Because grandma, grandpa, mommy, and daddy came from Arab countries in the majority. The majority of Israelis did not come from the English-speaking countries or from Russia. All right, moving along. So, one of the big problems we have with Hamas in Gaza is the flow of weapons coming from Egypt. There's an area that picked up the name Philadelphia Corridor. And that's where there's probably tunnels that go from Egypt to Gaza. So Israel tried to temporarily move their military to control and protect this Philadelphia area from Gazan, Hamas high-ranking people sneaking out to Israel, where Egypt will be probably more than happy to hide them or send them over to Iran or some sick thing like that. Egypt is not a true friend of Israel. Don't buy into that. It's a Muslim majority country, and if you believe that, you're not understanding, and in prophecy, Egypt will turn against Israel, but not exactly today. It'll happen, but it's not for now. Okay? Chief? Trying to give him a piece of this little Danish. So, don't fall into this trap that Egypt are good guys. They're not. How could they not know that that Hamas was bringing in enough material to build 300 miles of tunnels and have, we figured, 10 to 20,000 missiles and rockets? It's a joke. Egypt's against us. They just don't want a war with us. So, I'm sure Biden and other powers have been leaning on Egypt to do something about this, but Egypt's not interested. Netanyahu never talked about any of this, by the way. So the latest negotiations I heard with Egypt are they're going to let Israel build an underground wall in the Philadelphia corridor. Okay? You don't build an underground wall to stop pedestrian traffic. You build an underground wall to stop tunnels. And that's the purpose of it. it seems they're going to let us do it. Now, all the roads are leading to some kind of ceasefire here with Hamas. If the ICJ goes after somebody in Israel for genocide, it's not going to be the guy on the street or the lieutenant or the captain. It'll be the Prime Minister, Netanyahu, probably some generals, people in the Mossad, people in military intelligence. They'll probably come up with 40 to 100 people. Netanyahu will be at the top of the list. Now, if Netanyahu is removed from office, his diplomatic immunity is pretty well thrown out the window, I would say. So he could have a real problem. The best thing that could happen to this curse of Israel is that, for him, is that he will no longer be able to travel outside of Israel because he'll be afraid of getting picked up on a red notice and transported to some country, and then he could wind up with penalties, incarceration, execution. Genocide generally is execution. So Netanyahu figures if this criminal case for genocide stops, and it hasn't finished, it was just a preliminary decision they came up with. Then the ICJ will probably drop the matter, which I agree with, and he'll be okay. So he's not necessarily that concerned right now about ending a war with the Houthis or ending a war with Lebanon. That's not its big issue. It's getting this Hamas thing to be over with. So, if we can shut the passageway between Egypt and Gaza, what would happen? The flow of weapons would stop. Egypt's not going to let them bring them in over ground because reconnaissance pictures will show it, and they'll be in front of the UN and all. They don't want any of that. Okay, they don't want that. So Egypt and Lebanon and Yemen and Iran and Iraq and Syria, they all have to start coming to grips with the fact that Hamas is going down. Biden wants to keep Hamas alive in Gaza. Now, Netanyahu, who lies extensively, is saying that we're not going to leave Gaza and stop the war just for the hostages, and we're not going to give them thousands or hundreds of terrorists out of jail. We're going to keep bearing down on them hard and just bring them to their knees, and they'll agree to some type of ceasefire. Now, the fact that they picked up 500 surrendering Hamas soldiers the other day lends great credence to this. Biden is dead bent on Israel not having a victory with Gaza, does not want to show Bible prophecy being fulfilled. He's dead bent on Israel doing a two-state solution, which involves giving the West Bank to the people that live in Gaza, the same people, terrorists, and within 3 to 6 months, they'll be shooting rockets at us and attacking us just like Gaza did. The people in Israel will stand up against this to any extent. They won't listen to Biden. It's that I don't think is ever going to happen, but Biden doesn't want to give up. Now I'm thinking Biden made a backroom deal with Netanyahu. Another one, not October 7th, something else. And I'll give you the facts and then you draw your own conclusions. I'm going to put my computer glasses on. Let me check the chat and see if we've got any more hecklers coming in. They always come in by twos. Oh, we got rid of them. S-bots always come in the chat in pairs. They're afraid of the Holy Spirit. Okay. So, I don't know, 5 days ago, a Iraqi militia group hit a special intelligence gathering place with Section 22, whatever that does. It's intelligence gathering in Jordan. 3 American soldiers died and 50 wounded, mostly traumatic brain injury. There's been more than 100 attacks on American bases in Iraq and Syria, and they've had many people wounded. And I think guys got killed. Now, why all of a sudden is Biden going to go to war? Got to ask yourself these questions. Now, he made a point of saying he's not going to attack Iran. So people that are telling you that Biden's going to attack Iran and not basing it on any objectivity. Now, is Biden telling Iran, oh, I'm not going to attack you, and he's going to attack him? I doubt it. Iran came back and told Biden that if you do anything to harm basically their soldiers, their civilians, their equipment and buildings, or their interests, they will retaliate. How will they retaliate? They'll hit American bases more frequently. That's all they're going to do. Interdict ships. They're not going to go attack Israel or attack America. Okay, so Biden's latest release is that the retaliation for the attack is going to be a big military operation lasting several weeks. And it's going to be in several countries. Now, if it was just going to be Syria and Iraq, he would just say Syria and Iraq. What countries is it going to be? Well, I'll tell you how to figure that out. The group that killed the 3 soldiers and wounded the 50, their name is something like K-bar, new word, Hezbollah. They're Hezbollah, the same characters in Lebanon that keep attacking us by the border. Lebanon is the seat of Hezbollah. So what's going to look like here, in my opinion, and I could be, maybe I'm not getting it, but I think I am. He's going to attack Hezbollah in Lebanon, Bloody Biden, and Iraq and Syria. He's not going to do anything in Jordan. Jordan could clean that stuff up themselves. They don't need America. Okay. That's what I see coming. 3 B-52s are in Israel. Never saw that before. And there's a lot of people trying to say it's not true, but it's true. And 6 refueling tanker planes at the same time the B-52s came here, roughly the same time. They were transported to someplace in the Middle East. I do not know if it was Israel or Jordan or Saudi or UAE. I don't know where it is. Probably Israel. Now, could Biden be using these B-52s to bomb the Iraqi militias in Iraq and Syria? Yeah, I'd have to say yeah. It seems like you're going rabbit hunting with an elephant gun, though. They don't have any cities. They don't have any large military bases and all of that stuff. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. The other thing you have to really understand is days ago, these militias abandoned their bases. They do have bases, headquarters and places they go and they sleep and eat and all that. They abandoned them. They just left 1 or 2 security guards there to protect it from looters and pillagers and stuff like that. They abandoned it. So how does that work? Well, they put on Iraqi civilian clothes and go stay in the cities. How are you going to find them when you're doing air attacks with bombers and jets? You're not. The only thing that works with these people, the Hamas, the Hezbollah, the Iraqi militias, the Syrian militias, and Houthis and all of them, is ground attacks. Because they have tunnels and underground bunkers. Now, I don't think the Iraqi militias are real heavy into this like Hamas, but I don't know that for a fact, but they probably don't have any great big networks. Now, what if these Iraqi militias in Iraq and Syria, and some of them are Syrian militias, all backed by Iran and given Iranian weapons, what if they decide, well, things stink around here, let's go help Hezbollah? So then Biden gets them to shift to Lebanon and then bombs Lebanon with the B-52s. Could be. See, Bloody Biden's not capable of this line of thought, but the Pentagon is. Okay? The other alternative, the situation of them hiding in the bunkers and waiting for missiles, rockets, mortars, artillery that's not happening. They're not there. So how are you going to get them? Well, you can herd them into Lebanon and then pick them off in Lebanon, right? That might be one plan they got. Another plan that I think is a more stronger one, well, I would think I lean on this one heavy, is that they're going to go in and bomb Lebanon with Israel, or for Israel, or at the same time as Israel. And the area of question is between the Israeli border and the Litani River, which, depending on where in the river you measure it, is 17 to 18 miles to the Israel border. And the UN said years ago, in 2006, the last war with them, that Hezbollah has to stay north of the Litani River, which they're not doing. So that would give Buddy Biden all the legal justification for his actions, plus what happened to the troops in Jordan. Unless he's going to run a sham on the country, on America, and go drop 84 bombs out of each B-52 and blow up fields and empty buildings like Netanyahu likes to do, and that's not going to accomplish anything. It'll just make him look stupid. Now, that might be his plan, but it's going to make him look stupid in the long run. Can he be using the B-52s for another reason? Carpet bombing the Houthis in Yemen, preceding a ground invasion? Absolutely, that could be it. Could it be both? Sure. Sure. When they send a B-52 out there, they're going to have 4 or 6 jets protecting each B-52, maybe more. Because it's an older plane. They used them in Vietnam. Vietnam was over, 50 years ago. So, these are old planes. They hold 84 bombs, I think either 250 or 500 pounds. They're huge. They're good if you were fighting a war with a real country, let's say Russia, and Russia had a missile production factory that was spread out over 15 acres, with different buildings where they built different components and stuff like that, and you come by and you have B-52s dropping 84 bombs each. When you go home, you got a realistic expectation of having destroyed their production capability for some time to come. The place will be all blown up and in flames. Now, out of their 84 bombs, maybe half of them missed. So what? You got 42 hits. Okay? So what Biden would get to gain out of this by bombing the Hezbollah in Lebanon is multifaceted. One, okay, get out of this chair. One thing that it'll do is forward a peace deal quicker. Okay? If Biden gets the war to stop with Hamas and shuts the Lebanese war down, the Houthis may cave in. But I don't think Biden wants them to cave in. I think he wants to show the Pentagon and the world that the air attacks haven't stopped them, which they haven't. They did 9 air attacks. And now they got to go in on the ground. And I don't know how many soldiers he intends to bury inside the Middle East, but it would be very touch and go to do it with 25,000. You could create a buffer zone by the coast on the south and the west of Yemen, with 25,000 if you had ships with aircraft and aircraft carrier hanging around. And they had helicopters and artillery and missiles and missile defense systems and stuff like that. But I think they would be very shortly struggling to hold their bases that would come under rocket attack. So that's a very temporary, lousy solution. The country is 40 million. The Houthis are 167,000. When you combine them with the Yemen regular military, which is absolutely in alliance with them, you got about 200,000. In Gaza, the Hamas and PIJ and those characters came to 50,000. It's 4 times stronger. The population of Gaza was 2.5 million. Yemen's 40 million. I think it's at least 100,000 soldiers. Now, America may not put up all of them because they could get India. Well, India won't work with America, but maybe some NATO countries would put up. So if they're going to use 100,000, America will come up with 65 or 70,000 of them. They'll probably dedicate 100 jets plus bombers to it. And they'll have several ships in the water near Yemen, which they already have. And they could go in by land through Saudi Arabia, which it looks like Saudi would have let them. And they could also go in by the ocean, by the Red Sea, by sending in special forces to hold strips of land by the beach, and then bring more soldiers and tanks in from ships stationed offshore. So, yeah, if they did do this, it would take them 4 to 8 weeks, probably, maybe 6 weeks, to neutralize Hamas. They'd be better at it than we are. They got more aircraft, they got more resources. I think it would take them 6 weeks or so, and it'd be over. That's because we'd be running all over Yemen, and our aircraft would be flying all over Yemen, and our ships would be offshore, and we'd eventually blow up enough of their tunnels, underground networks, equipment factories, headquarters, radar, motor pools and all that, and Navy, boats, whatever they have, and that'd be the end of them. I'm oversimplifying it, but that's what it would look like. Now, it would be their advantage to annihilate or otherwise occupy the militias in Iraq and Syria and those in Lebanon while they worked on let me think for a second. While they worked on the Houthis, otherwise they'd have the danger of these other militia groups sending thousands of reinforcements into Yemen. If America fights against Yemen with their bombers and maybe armor, it will bring the wrath of many countries down on America. Not just Iran, but many Muslim states will have had it with America because they'll be thinking America's going to knock us off one by one, and we're not going to be able to have anything to do with our own destiny or purpose in the Middle East. This could be the snare that Biden is working, because this could easily cause the sleeper agents to be released in America and make it look like it's really all Israel's fault. What a perfect thing for Biden to do to meet his demonic agenda. Remember, the open borders are no accident. It's an act of internal destruction in the country. So I think we're all going to have to wait maybe 10 or 15 days till Israel really attacks Lebanon. If they were going to attack because the deadline was up at 12:01 last night, they would have attacked by 2 or 3 in the morning, and they haven't. Oh, look at the chat for a minute. So you see how thick this is? It's not as easy as people think it is. It's very, very complicated. When do I think Armageddon is going to? Well, if you call it Gog and Magog, we got some years before that. It is Gog and Magog, Ezekiel 38:39, it's Zechariah 12. It's Ezekiel chapters 8 to 11, which nobody pays attention to. And it's the whole book of Joel. It's all put together, and Zechariah 14. Several years. See, Gog and Magog, I'll get to that later in the broadcast. I'll show you why that comes about. I'm headed there with the Bible. All right, so Netanyahu is going to bear down harder and harder on Hamas. More and more Hamas soldiers will be surrendering. And more stuff will get blown up. There is no real way for the people of Gaza to return back into Gaza up in the north in most places. Probably 80% of the housing has been destroyed. And that's a lot, okay? And not only that, but the sewers are gone, the streets, the roads are gone, the traffic lights are gone, the parking, where are you going to park? It's rubble. The water supply is shot. The telephones and the internet the cell phones and the internet go off and on all the time. The electricity comes from Israel. What if Israel just shuts that off? Well, the UN will scream genocide. There's a lot of disease in Gaza with the occupants, the civilian Palestinians, as they like to be called. There's a lot of that. There's a COVID breakout. They're living in tents in the south of Gaza. Gaza's pretty warm. They're living in tents in the rain. The food's coming in from various sources, UNWRA, and people are stealing the food, Hamas predominantly, and then putting it in stores and selling it at exorbitant prices. 3-4 times what it would cost in normal days. It's a mess. And these people are going to have to go somewhere else. If they don't go somewhere else, a coalition of nations is going to have to come up with probably something in the order of $200 or $300 billion to rebuild the place. We just found out that Israel is bringing over from India 10,000 construction workers to take the place of the Palestinians in Gaza that used to get work permits to come here and work. But since we found out they were acting as spies for Hamas, leading to the October 7th massacre, telling them where all the vital things are, we are not going to repeat that again. And that's against Biden's wishes. But they caught a guy employing Palestinian workers the other day, and they fined the daylights out of him, and I think he may get some jail time, like 2 or 3 months. So, but they're breaking him financially, so there's no employing of these people. And they're not giving them work in Israel. What they're doing in India, I'm sure, is vetting these people, because India has a lot of Muslims and want to make sure they're not getting any terrorists. And they'll give them the permit. Trying to put this together for you. So there's a multifaceted peace deal working behind the scenes, where Hamas is going to have to give up all the hostages. They're going to have to understand they're never going to be in control of Gaza again. They have to understand they're going to be demilitarized. Israel's soldiers are going to finish off any weapons production, weapons storage, anything. They're not going to have a command center. They're not going to have uniforms. They're not going to have equipment. They're going to have nothing. And then they're going to close that crossing from Egypt where they were bringing weapons in. Now, they'll eventually find a way to try doing it in another area if they can, but it's not going to be anything we need to worry about. So then Israel will probably still keep a peacekeeping force there for a few years and oversee the government. Israelis are talking about they want to have a presence there too. We want to have settlers move back in and things like that. I don't know about that one because that's fulfilling Bible prophecy and the nations will go nuts, but maybe it'll happen. I don't know. It's a year of recompenses. Hamas has had their head handed to them. They're still trying to get out of this thing in such a way that they can make it look like they won, stay in Gaza, and then in probably as little as 3 to 4 weeks, they'll start shooting missiles at us again. They'll repair tunnels, they'll get money, and so Israel's stopping that from happening. Biden doesn't want to see that happen. He'd like to see Hamas around again to play another day, but it's not going his way. Now, if there is actually a war in Lebanon, it might be very short-lived. We bombed that 17, 18-mile area, which we've already taken out a lot of their strategic missile launching sites and stuff like that. We finished that off. The tanks roll in, the mobile artillery, we clean it out, we look for tunnels, we blow the tunnels up, we capture them, they surrender, we kill them and all that stuff. And then we, for a period of time, occupy that 17 to 18 miles. The nations will go crazy, scream bloody murder. And that's the way it looks to me as to what will happen in Lebanon. The government of Israel never came out and told us that Lebanon has, 150,000 or 250,000 rockets and they could obliterate Israel. The media tells us that. And all of these Muslim terrorist fanatics lie, Iran included. So, by the behavior of Israel, I don't think we're really at that much of a threat. And I think that Israel knew that, but they let the media get away with it because they weren't in the mood for a war with them. But now they see they have to. Another thing bearing down on Netanyahu is the 80,000 people from the Lebanese-Israeli border that have had to leave their houses. They were evacuated. Now, there's probably 5% remaining because you still have the right to remain. And down in Sderot, the south of Israel, near Gaza, at least 120,000 have been evacuated. And then when you add in Ashdod, Ashkelon, and other communities, you probably can push it to 250,000 people are not living in their homes. The government puts a vast majority of them up in hotels for months now. Now, the hotels are empty of tourists because after October 7th, the tourism dropped in Israel by about 98%. 99%. Who the heck's coming here? Okay? The tour guides are busted out of work. The hotels are busted out of work. The restaurants catering to tourists are busted out of work. The Airbnbs are busted out of work. Someone's blowing a horn. I don't know why, but if it was my wife, she'd call me. Wait a minute. I don't think I'd hear it if it was her. Someone's being obnoxious, but I don't think my wife's running around somewhere. So, this is. Let me give my wife a phone call and see if she is outside and needs me for something to carry something in or something. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'll ask her if I can get her. She's having trouble with her phone intermittently now. It's ringing. I don't know if she's going to pick up. She had to get something for the birds. The fact that she's not picking up makes me think she's not in the driveway blowing the horn. Okay, so see, the situation's really complicated, but all roads seem to lead to return of the hostages, ceasefire, or cessation of the hostilities in Lebanon, and what happens with the Houthis, I'm not sure. When America starts attacking the Iraqi militias, Syrian militias, and possibly in Lebanon, the Houthis are going to stay in the fight even though there's a ceasefire with Hamas. So if the hostages come back, they'll have to come back all at once. Israel will go for a ceasefire, but they will not withdraw from Gaza. They will insist on full demilitarization of Hamas, so they won't be able to do this again. They will want to try certain members of Hamas. They'll be told to keep this to a limited amount for the massacres. So Hamas is going to have to feed them a couple of dozen people or more to put on trial and give them life in prison or hang them or something for what they did with the atrocities. And that's what the nation's plan is. Now, we don't stop there. What is God's plan? We're in the year of recompenses. We're in the latter days. So what is God going to do? since we're in the year of recompenses, I think that Hamas is going to get their head handed to them, which already happened, but much worse maybe. And Lebanon's going to get their head handed to them, and probably the Houthis. Who hands them their head, I don't know. Plus Syria and the Iraqi militias. So then Iran gets away unscathed. Well, don't count on that too much. You don't know. There's going to be a lot of surprise twists and turns in these developments. This I can tell you. God's doing it in such a way that people aren't going to see what's coming, when it's coming, how it's coming, and they're just going to go into confusion and derision, and they're not going to know what happens. And this is the year of recompenses, which started August 1st, roughly, give or take a few days. And that's going to be the downfall of the United States. It'll happen by the August 1st of 2024, in my reckoning. And you could already see that developing. Now, there is a prayer request here that I don't want to forget, so we'll take a brief interlude for that. Got to find it, though. For initials RS, Robert Sam, RS, Robert Sam, RS. Healing for a problem in the arm. Healing for RS in the arm. Okay, I'm going to take this away. I did it. All right. There is a possibility that I'd say this is slim. Infiltrators coming in from Lebanon into Israel and conducting massacres, rapes, burning of lives, beheading, and all that. I don't think so. We got a whole army up there at the border, and I don't think it's going to happen. And I don't think so. Israel's in no mood for another, conspiracy event. They're not in the mood for that. That's not going to happen. See, what you got the problem with Israel, and it's the problem with the rabbis and all that, is they look at the prophecies. God's going to protect you, I'll curse those that curse you and bless those that bless you. And they all sit there and think, oh, yeah, that's going to happen. And it happens a little bit. Israel got attacked many times since 1948, and they won all the wars right up into the 2006 Lebanon War. But then the nations persuade them to give the land back, which is an insult to God. And they don't have faith. And they don't understand anything about, what needs to happen for God to start blessing them again. It's happening in spite of them with the year of recompenses, which has the day of vengeance. And the day of vengeance, by my Bible studies, is the vengeance on the daughter of Babylon. Remember, it says when the daughter of Babylon is destroyed, everybody breaks out in singing, including the angels in heaven, and there's peace on the earth. It's the daughter of Babylon that's causing all the trouble, okay? Now, they're going to go. And the sleeper agents, while they define the problem, the FBI and so forth, they keep steering you to thinking that they're going to do terrorist attacks. Well, by the figures I'm hearing, there's 11 or 12 million of them in the U.S., 70% of military-age males. They're going to overrun the military bases, which are poorly guarded in America. They'll destroy the weapons or confiscate them or whatever, and they're going to kill the whole military. That's in Jeremiah 50:51. That's in America. Now, the way Biden, who open border Biden, who's doing this, is going to weaken America is take a lot of the military and embed it in the Middle East, for starters. Now, when you add up the American soldiers currently now in the Middle East, in these countries, I'll give you the count. Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, which is Dubai, Oman, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. 58,000 soldiers are embedded in these countries collectively now. 58,000. American military size is at a low of, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 years or something like that. It's at a very, very, very bad low. They're concerned. What are they going to do? Are they going to draft the so-called illegal aliens that declared amnesty and put them in the military? Well, I'm sure they've talked about it, but I don't think there's enough time. When you consider now we're in the, let's see, October, November, December, January, February. Wait a minute. October, November, December, January, February. We're in the 6th month of the year of recompenses. At the end of this month, or roughly March 1st, we'll be in the second half of it. So I don't know how much time it would take. If they're going to do enlistments, they would just show up, bring their paperwork from Border Patrol, and they would be brought into the military, and then they would have to have some type of training. Most of them, I'm sure, speak little to no English, so I don't know how that's going to work. You know, I really don't know. But if they try something like that, it would, you know, it's not enough time, I don't think. And they're dangerous enough there. Now, if Biden does garbage attacks on the militias that killed the 3 soldiers and wounded 50, injured 50, there's a chance the American military would become disgruntled and they would start discussing rebelling against Biden, which would take the immediate form of refusal to follow orders and get worse from there. Would Biden care about this? No, it would help him weaken America. There's going to be an invasion after the sleeper agents. So he might just decide to not do anything to them meaningful. Okay? The only meaningful attack he's going to put on them is to have tens of thousands of soldiers. You don't need 100,000, but you probably need 20 or 25,000 probably, with armor, with helicopter and jet support, run around on the ground in Iraq and Syria, go to their known locations and destroy them. Syria will have a cow if that happens, and so will Iraq, but Biden might do it. The best way to get the Muslim states and the enemies of Israel and the enemies of America to rise up against America would be for him to join in the fighting in Lebanon and perhaps do a vigorous attack on the militias. Biden never said there won't be a ground invasion. Never said that. But they've already evacuated. I don't know who he's going to ground invade. He's going to blow buildings up with nobody in there. Netanyahu does that. If you blow buildings up with nobody in there, the enemy, the soldiers, are still around to fight you another day. They just don't have buildings. If you blow them up and leave the buildings alone, then what happens? Well, now you got empty buildings. There's no threat. If the buildings even survive. You get rid of both is the ideal. So I don't know what kind of game Biden's going to play, but rest assured he's playing a game. He's trying to take down the good old USA and at the same time make trouble for Israel. That's really what's going on, guys. Maybe Israel will stall attacking Lebanon full out until there's some sort of peace deal with Hamas, which might happen quickly. But you can't have a peace deal with Hamas unless Hamas says, okay, we'll agree to a peace deal. Even then, they'll just break their word eventually anyway, if they can. And Israel knows that, so that's why they got to demilitarize them, so there'd be no point in them breaking their word. See, Gog and Magog happen as a punishment to Israel. Now, we need to kind of maybe explain this to people because they don't understand. You need to get down the fact that the Israelis killed Yeshua using the Romans as the executioner. That's simple, okay? Most of you know that. You have to get down that God's not finished with Israel, and he's chastening Israel, and when that's over, he's going to restore Israel. The year of recompenses is the Lord has a controversy with the nations, with the heathen, over Israel, over Zion, over Israel. God wants to bring Israel back and elevate them over all the nations and run the world through Israel, and they don't want that. They want Satan. All right? That's your basic groundwork. Period. That's it. Now, God tells us in the Bible about the punishing of Israel that the church never talks about. Go find it somewhere. They know about it. They're just not going to talk about it because they're doing their replacement theology. It's all about the church, not Israel. Okay, Hosea 6, 1 and 2. Come and let us return unto Jehovah. That's Israel. For he hath torn, and he will heal us. He hath smitten, and he will bind us up. After 2 days, and Peter tells us 1,000 years like a day unto the Lord, so this is not a 48-hour punishment, it's 2,000 years. After 2 days, will he revive us? That means bring us to life. Okay, and the word for revive is chaya, which comes from the root word chai, which is life. We'll have a little more on that soon. In the 3rd day, that's the millennium, he will raise us up and we shall live in his sight. In the sight of Yeshua and the glory of God of Israel, that each sit on a throne in New Jerusalem. So there's a 2,000-year punishment on Israel. So he's not going to hear their prayers. He's going to use the Bible expression, turn his face away. Now, this is a very important phraseology used in the Bible. It sometimes has a spiritual or allegorical meaning, and sometimes it's literal, the face of God. So we need to look at some scriptures to try to get a grip on this, right? And you're not going to get it from the church. Let's go to Exodus 33:20. And he said, thou can't, well, let's back up a few verses, 3 or 4 verses. Exodus 33:14. And he said, my presence shall go with thee, and I will give thee rest. Let's look at the presence word. It doesn't say presence, it says punim, puna. It's face. It means his face. You know, where the nose and the eyes are, that. It means face. So he's saying, and he said, my face shall go with thee, and I will give thee rest. And he said unto him, if thy face go not with me, carry us not up hence, for wherein shall it be known here that I and thy people have found grace in thy sight? And the word for sight is ayin. It doesn't mean sight, it means eye. And thy people have found grace in thy eye. The eye is in the face. He's looking upon them. Okay. Is it not in that thou goest with us, so shall we be separated, I and thy people, from all the people that are upon the face of the earth? And Jehovah said unto Moses, I will do this thing also that thou hast spoken, for thou hast found grace in my sight, my eye, and I know thee by name. And he said, I beseech thee, show me thy glory, kabod, glory. And he said, I will make all my goodness, what's that word? Tube. Let's see how Strong flips that into English. Yeah, he didn't do a bad job. The goodness, but where did it go? Show me. My goodness pass before thee, and I will proclaim the name. Let's check that word, Shem. It means name. The name of Jehovah before thee, and will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and will show mercy on whom I will show mercy. And he said, thou canst not see my face. Now, what's the word for face? Punim. The punim, or punim. It's different ways. It means face. It's the same meaning, face. For there shall no man see me and live. Now, the face word is correct. For there shall, let's check that. It doesn't say there shall, it just says no. It's basically in reality saying that no Adam, man, see. Now that's not ayin, that's ra'ah. And that word really means to see. Behold, they translated it okay. See me and live. And the word for live is kaya, which is a very interesting, it's a chai word for the root. And it's very interesting. It can mean revive or live. Okay. And Jehovah said, behold, there is a place by me, thou shalt stand upon a rock. And it shall come to pass, while my glory passeth by, that I will put thee in a cleft of the rock, and will cover thee with my hand while I pass by. Now it says, while I pass by. Let's see what it says in Hebrew. A bar. It doesn't say I, it says pass by. This is the glory of God of Israel that's doing this, as best I can tell. And I will take away my hand, and thou shalt see my back parts. Let's see if the word see is correct. Ra'ah, yes. And let's check back parts. Yeah, it's back parts. But my panim, shall not be seen. Let's see what it really says. But panim, lo, ra'ah. Okay, face no see. I believe this was the glory of God of Israel, because he keeps saying the glory, the glory, the glory. That's what I think it is. I don't think it was Jehovah coming down from heaven. I don't think it was Yeshua. It's kind of vague, maybe it is, but anyway. I don't think Moses had eternal life when I read this morning, because it doesn't make sense if he did. So I don't think Moses really did have eternal life. So he may very well have not been a son of God. I don't know. I mean, this is leading me away from there a lot. So I'm thinking that he's not. Okay. Not a son of God. He's a prophet. Now let's look at Ezekiel 39:29. Neither will I hide my face any more from them, speaking of Israel, and the word for face is panim. No! For I have poured out my spirit, and the word for spirit is correct, ruach, upon the house, Beit Yisrael, saith Adonai Yehovah. So you see, now we got a rough interpretation here. I will not hide my face. So it's very possible that when you see his face, you're going to die and switch over to eternal life in the blink of an eye. See? I have poured out my spirit upon the house of Israel, saith the Lord. Well, that means they're believers, and he doesn't hide his face, so they'll see him. See, I went through this yesterday in Acts 7:55. You're never going to hear any of this come out of any of the churches, by the way. But he, being full of the Holy Ghost, that's Stephen, looked up steadfastly into heaven and saw the glory of God, which is what Moses was just dealing with, that, and Yeshua standing on the right hand of God, and said, behold, I see the heaven open, and the Son of Man standing on the right hand of God, of Jehovah. Then they cried with a loud voice, and stopped their ears, and ran upon him with one accord, and cast him out of the city. They dragged him out to kill him outside the gates, and stoned him. And let's make sure it says stone. Yeah, it does. And the witnesses, which is the same word for the two witnesses, it could be a martyr or a witness. Okay. Witnesses laid down, and the witnesses laid down their clothes at a young man's feet whose name was Saul. That was Apostle Paul before he was Apostle Paul. And they stoned Stephen, calling upon God and saying, Stephen's calling upon God and saying, Lord Yeshua, receive my spirit. And he kneeled down and cried with a loud voice, Lord, lay not this sin to their charge. And when he had said this, he fell asleep. This is really interesting because when heaven opened up, he saw Yeshua. And according to the word of God, that should have given him eternal life to see the risen Christ like that, the glorified Christ. And this is the will of him that sent me, that everyone which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life. John 6:40. So I think that Stephen had everlasting life at that moment. And then he just said, Lord Yeshua, receive my spirit, and the spirit left his body before the rocks started hitting him, probably. And that was it. Could he also have seen the face of God? I don't know. Didn't say so, but maybe. But you don't have, it says, everyone which seeth the Son. You don't have to see a particular piece of him. You just see him. Yeshua had the power to take his spirit out of his body and put it back in again. He said he did. And that's what he did. He said it's done, and then the spirit left. So I think Stephen had a similar experience, except he didn't have the power to take his spirit out of his body and put it back, but Yeshua did for sure. So Yeshua did it for him. So he may have had eternal life at that point. So his spirit would have went to the good place, Abraham's bosom. His body wouldn't go anywhere till resurrection. I'm just guessing at this. It looks that way, but I can't give you 100% guarantee that it's right. I'm just trying to dig deep into some things, you know. All right, let's look at a few more scriptures in Ezekiel 15:7. And I will set my face against them. They shall go out from one fire, and another fire shall devour them, and you shall know that I am Jehovah when I set my face against them. And I will make the land desolate because they have committed a trespass, saith Adonai Jehovah. So it's here he's saying when he turns his face, when he sets his face against them, bad stuff happens. Okay? Real interesting. Hosea 5:15. I will go and return to my place till they acknowledge their offense and seek my face. In their affliction they will seek me early. This is Jacob's trouble. This is Gog and Magog. It got to be this. So it's very interesting how this is used, this word. Numbers 6:23, this makes it even more interesting. This is, I'll read it to you. Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, notice God didn't talk directly to Aaron, he spoke to Moses, saying, on this wise you shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them. Now, I am a Kohanim, and I have the Holy Spirit, and I'm going to perform this, what's called Kohanim, or priest blessing, on all the true believers that watch or listen to this, even if it's a recording, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. So here it goes for real. Jehovah bless thee and keep thee. Jehovah make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. Jehovah lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. And I put the name Jehovah upon these people I'm praying for, and Jehovah will bless them. Now, when it says countenance, that's the end of it. When it says countenance, it's really face. They screw this up. They just do it on purpose so you don't really understand the meanings. And this is a very important thing, people run around teaching the Euphrates River is dried up. It has not dried up. Parts of it is dried up. So don't let them fool you about prophecy and, it's you fried up and all that. It's not. Look, before you get to Gog and Magog, Israel has to have a temple. They have to have Elijah, Apostle John, the other witness, the two witnesses. And then there's going to be a falling away. And you could read Ezekiel 8-11 and learn all about this. And those that are grievous of the injustices done at the temple have a mark placed in their forehead, and nothing bad happens to them in Gog and Magog. That's in Ezekiel 9. The church will never ever, if you put a gun to their head, they wouldn't tell you this. Maybe they would then, but they won't tell you this. Get a mark in the forehead. The word mark can mean name. It could be God putting his name in their forehead. Likely is. Remember you watch the old movies about the westerns and the guy's selling his land to the railroad or something like that, and he says, put your mark here. And he's put his name there. It was synonymous with that. When you go to the old Webster's Dictionary, 1828, let me go look it up. I'll tell you right there. I did this before, but I'll do it again. Webster's. Mark, it's a noun, Latin mercor, the primary sense of which is to go, to pass, or to pass, what? Fair. A visible line made by drawing the substance on another, as a mark made by chalk. Okay, that's just a mark, like a scratch or something. A line, groove made by stamping or cutting, an incision, a channel or impression, like the mark of a chisel or a stamp. Okay. Any note or sign of distinction. The Lord set a mark upon Cain. Hang on a minute. A signature mark is an alternative to writing a full signature. The signer instead makes a mark, such as an X or other symbols, on the document. Under the laws of many states, a mark is considered a signature and is treated as such. There it goes. A signature by mark has the same intent as any signature on a document. Signature by mark is when someone signs a document by making a mark rather than signing his or her name. So it could be his name that the mark is in the forehead. And that leaves a lot of implications to, I'll show you the scripture. I got the wrong verse here, let me get it. Hang on a second, I gotta find this verse. And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads. And those are the 12 tribes of Israel. You tell me, what do you think it is? You know, I mean, I can't give it to you in concrete, but it looks interesting, right? Let's take a look at the chat and make sure things are copacetic. Okay, go to my notes. Matthew 23:39. We'll start in 37. Matthew 23:37. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets, stones them which are sent unto thee. How often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wings, and you would not. Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. That's 70 AD. That's not Gog and Magog. Okay? For I say unto you, you shall not see me henceforth, till you shall say, blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord. Well, it doesn't say name of the Lord. I checked it in the Hebrew New Testament. It says Jehovah, in the name of Jehovah. See, the rabbis have taught for centuries the Jewish people that they cannot pronounce the name of Jehovah. It's like a curse to them if they do it. So instead of saying that, what they say is Hashem. Ha is the word for the, Shem is name. So they won't say Jehovah, they won't write it. All they'll say is Hashem, the name. So the rabbis have accomplished blotting God's name out of Israel to a great extent, haven't they? Mm-hmm. Now we see this again in Luke 13:34. We'll start in 33. Nevertheless, I must walk today and tomorrow and the day following, for it cannot be that a prophet perish out of Jerusalem. So the two witnesses may very well die in Jerusalem. I may have to be corrected on that. I'm still looking at that one. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, which killest the prophets, and stonest them that are sent unto thee, how often would I have gathered thy children together, as a hen doth gather her brood under her wings, and you would not. See, if they were willing to turn to him, he would have gathered them together and built them up. It says, behold, your house is left unto you desolate, 70 AD, the Romans burning Herod's temple. And verily I say unto you, you shall not see me until the time come when you shall say, blessed is he that cometh in the name of Jehovah. Now, do you think that's far away? I don't. I don't. Give the two witnesses a chance when the light turns green and God launches them. See, what's going to happen is we're going to have lots of signs and wonders in Israel. Elijah in Malachi 3 trains the Levites to make the offerings acceptable to the Lord, so the blessings of the Lord will be on Israel. The next temple, as I've taught many times, basically out of Ezekiel 37, comes down from heaven. And then that's the way God, it says that's how God shows the heathen that he sanctified Israel. If a bunch of rabbis smack together a temple with construction equipment, that certainly wouldn't get the heathen to believe that God sanctified Israel, would it? Of course not. And it says God will put or place the temple amongst us. So it's coming down from heaven, and it's not New Jerusalem. Believe me, I know the difference. So that's going to be a heavy sign on Israel. The two witnesses are going to be a heavy sign on Israel. And the blessings that are going to come on Israel are going to be a heavy sign on Israel, and they're still going to fall away. Read Ezekiel chapters 8 to 11, and you'll get the details. Joel chapters 1, 2, and 3 to a lesser extent. That's the great falling away. Then, towards the end of it, the glory of God of Israel leaves the temple, and then Israel gets attacked. And the women are raped in Zechariah 14. The women are raped. You see, Gog and Magog is also the great day of the Lord. Leave it for the church to never tell you that. And the women are raped, the houses are looted, and half of Jerusalem goes into captivity. But the remainder don't leave, because they don't have to. They've had the mark placed in their forehead. Nothing bad will happen to them. Does this mark give them eternal life or something? I don't know. I don't read that, but it could be. I don't know. We're going to learn a lot. It's going to be miracles all the way, baby, let me tell you. So the half of Jerusalem going into captivity takes us to the time and half a time. But that does not speak about 42 months or 1260 days. It speaks of captivity. The first was Egypt, the second Babylon, the third was Rome, and the fourth is a half a time, or dividing a time, which is the half of Jerusalem going into captivity, which you read about in Zechariah 14 and verse 2. And that hasn't happened yet. See, the church makes a mess out of it. Now, Gog and Magog will happen coinciding, I believe, with the tribulation. And the tribulation will probably come right after the Gog and Magog close proximity, because to the Jew first, then the Greek, the blessings and the tribulation. So they'll get it after us. but it'll be very close in timing. It'll even maybe overlap or something, I don't know, but it'll be pretty close in timing. Okay? So the tribulation is probably not 7 years. But if you started from today forward till the end, the return of Yeshua, it's probably, I guess, something like 7 years. I'm guessing, I'm not sure. It could be off a few years, but, it's not far away. How long it takes for us to go from having the temple and the two witnesses and so forth till the falling away gets so bad, the glory of God leaves Israel, is very hard to determine accurately because we don't know exactly when it'll start. Yet, when we know it started, then we'll have a better idea. So it's probably best to reserve that for a little later. So we need the temple, we need the blessings of the law, because it says when the locusts come and the other bugs, the land looks like the Garden of Eden in front of them and then burnt up behind them as they eat everything. So that'll happen. There'll be a famine for a while. It's not such a fast freight train. It'll go quick. So Israel's going to have great prosperity, and then they're going to fall away. Bad stuff. All right. I'm trying, guys. Sometimes I make corrections, but the Lord's getting us there, isn't he? Anything cooking in my chat here? How many kids in your basement? I don't know what in the world you're talking about. The houses in Israel don't have basements. I don't know what you're talking about. All right. My name's Moshe. My wife is Rivka. And please pray for our peace, safety, protection, and joy and healing of our bodies. And pray for our animals and pets to be happy, healthy, and whole. And not fight with each other or run away. And the prayers for the roof, please keep them going. So far they've worked. We haven't really had any substantial leaking. And please keep praying we get a good used car. And pray for our finances. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And you could email me with questions. I don't mind them. Okay. People write me and say they want to communicate with me. Now, the people that have communicated with me and they know how to communicate with me. People that never did before don't. So give me an idea how you want to communicate with me, Okay? And then give me an idea what you want to talk about. Because I get people that, they write me and they tell me that they're the Messiah of Islam, or they could tell me anything. They could tell me they're the Buddha or whatever, and I want to know what you want to hear. I don't need to talk to people that are going to tell me they're the Imam of the Quran. I don't need that, okay? I don't want to talk to somebody who says they're Buddha or, something like that. But give me an idea what you want to talk about, okay? You'd be surprised what type of people will come in on chats like this, and a lot of them don't have bats in the belfry. They got whales in the belfry, you know. All right, so I hope you got something out of this, and I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm going to keep digging and digging in the scriptures and get more and more good truths out there for us. It's things I'm still working on, and keep praying. Keep praying that the Lord gives us more answers through me on the scriptures, so we know more. Knowing more is always good. So that's it. I hope you got some out of this, and you can ask questions. My email address is in the chat. It's at the bottom of the description box. It's israelgiving with the number 7 at gmail.com. And I'm out. Thanks.